It's a crisp April morning in Queenstown, Ireland. The dawn came in bright and welcoming, promising a fresh start. This is especially meaningful to you on this particular morning because you are just finishing your final preparations to set off on a great adventure. You and your family of 4 will be headed to America to pursue a new job and a new life. The excitement in the air is palpable because you'll be going in style. You are going to America aboard the RMS Titanic. As a farm labourer, you've been making something around £2 and 12 shillings per month. This voyage has cost you and your family about £20, and it's taken you a long time to save up for it. But you know it will be worth it. Your cousin made the trip a few years ago, and he wrote to you last summer. Things are better there, he says, and the numbers don't lie. It feels like every few weeks there's another American wake, a kind of solemn going-away party, as somebody else in the village makes the move. Originally, you'd booked your family passage in steerage aboard a small, humble steamer, but the coal strike sweeping the shipping industry had forced that vessel out of service, and you were instead transferred to the White Star Line's newest, grandest ship, Titanic. It's a very exciting development. At your own American wake, you and your family explained the situation with pride. This, you told everybody, is to be her maiden voyage, and the idea of being among the first to experience the largest ship in the world excites you almost as much as your prospects waiting for you in America. You still hold a third-class ticket, but as you saw in the promotional brochures at the ticketing office, the accommodations promise to be among the most comfortable you and your family have ever experienced. The preparation for the voyage has been daunting, to say the least. Since you're settling permanently in America, you need to bring everything you need to start a whole new life. But without big fancy town cars and servants to help you haul everything, all your possessions need to be crammed into just a couple of small suitcases and 2 steamer trunks. Anything you can carry. Clothing like daywear, coats, your pajamas for the entire family, it completely fills the first trunk, and then all the keepsakes, linens, toiletries, and what few valuables you have in your possession are relegated to the second. By the time everything is stuffed inside, the bulging trunks just barely manage to latch. You and your spouse each have 1 suitcase for the necessary items you and the children will need to have on hand for the voyage. It was a strange feeling, seeing your entire life stuffed into just a few pieces of luggage, but if all goes well in America, your hope is that things may look quite different in even just 1 year's time. By mid-morning, you already feel exhaustion starting to set in. The train ride from your hometown near Galway to the port of Queenstown was no simple hop, skip and a jump. In fact, it was a voyage in and of itself. It needed hours of waiting, several train transfers, and no shortage of confusion. You all needed to be up well before dawn in order to catch the first train, and the children spent most of the time sleeping or in a stupor once you got on board. You tried to make the journey as easy on them as possible, keeping them close on your lap, offering them treats and keeping their spirits high with stories of the grand life waiting for them in America. You passed the time with games and riddles, talked about the things they were most excited to see once you're finally on board Titanic, and quietly read to them when they became restless. All the while you watched as the green countryside flew by out the window, bearing you miles away from everything you've ever known. Just when you thought the final leg of the journey might go on forever, the train finally pulled into the station at Queenstown near the White Star Pier. You've finally arrived. Everyone on board the train seems to perk up at once, as though awoken from a daze. The pier is so close to the train station, you can already see the beautiful, stately ship waiting for you off in the distance in the bay, smoke billowing from her towering golden funnels, her silhouette nothing short of grand. It's an extraordinary, elegant sight, but there's something else behind your reaction. Seeing her there waiting for you makes reality finally sink in all at once. You realise this is truly it, your last moments spent on Irish soil, your last chance to take it all in. From the moment you step aboard that ship off in the distance, your new life begins. You grab the children by their hands and step off the train into the hustle and bustle of the station, collecting your luggage. From there, it's only a few minutes' walk to the waterfront, and once you arrive, your son, a boy, 7, asks when the ship will be coming close enough for you all to get on. Kneeling down to look him in the eye, you explain the ship is too big, you won't be able to get any closer. Instead, Everyone will be boarding a smaller ship first, called a tender, which will ferry all the waiting passengers out to Titanic. The lad's eyes light up at the idea of not just one, but 2 boat rides in the same day, while your 5-year-old daughter complains that she's unable to see the ship up close. You pat her on the head, all in due time, you tell her. Looking around, you notice many other families who look just like yours, with expressions ranging from anticipation to sadness to anxiety. Like you and your family, many of the passengers waiting at the pier have no plans on returning home again once they board the steamer, and the idea of saying farewell is harder for some than others. Ladies dab their eyes with handkerchiefs and embrace their loved ones staying behind as they prepare to set off for an all-new life across the sea. The scene is bittersweet, as heart-wrenching as it is heartwarming. You then turn your eyes to the water and watch as the 2 tender boats approach the pier, and the sight seems to trigger a spark of excitement through the crowd, despite all the tears. The first of the tenders comes alongside the pier, and it won't be long before you step aboard. An official comes by to tag your luggage. A wanted tag is attached to the suitcases staying with you in your stateroom, while a not wanted tag goes on the larger steamer trunks bound for the ship's cargo hold. With that, there's just one last formality, the mandated health inspection. One by one, all passengers hoping to board the tender are screened by officials who ask them brief questions about their health, look them over for visible signs of sickness, infection, or lice, and clear them to board if all seems well. As you get closer to the front of the line, the little ones become nervous. What if they aren't allowed to board and they're all left behind, all alone? But you reassure them, no such thing will happen, and when you finally step up to be screened, you find the process to be quick and painless. Everyone in the family passes through easily, and now it's finally time to step aboard the tender. Once everyone is settled in, you find your first destination is not Titanic, but instead a brief pit stop at the deep water quay nearby to load bags of mail bound for the ship. This new delay seems to have made the children antsy, and your spouse soothes them with some more sweets, which always seems to do the trick, just like it did on the train. Before long, though, you feel movement beneath your feet again, and the tender begins to make its way towards the liner waiting in the near distance. As you draw closer, you crane your neck to get a good view of the ship, and that's when its scale truly hits you. The children gasp in amazement. She's not just a big ship, she's positively massive, larger than any object or building you've ever seen in your entire life. And for the next week, this is to be your home. Your head reels at the thought of it. It's honestly hard to believe. When the tender eases in alongside Titanic, the black, shining hull of the ship seems to extend into the sky like a great steel cliff. How, you wonder, can such an immense structure possibly move, let alone fast enough to get you across the ocean in under a week's time? It's unlike anything you've experienced before, and for a moment you feel the same childlike wonder that the youngsters must be feeling. Every passenger seems almost giddy with anticipation. From above, heads crane over railings to take a look. Some have fine hats on. They surely have to be the toffs up in first class. Your son blows somebody up there a raspberry, and you playfully clip him on the ear. The raspberry was deserved, you think, but you can't be encouraging those kinds of shenanigans. After all, you need to be making a good impression, not just on your new shipmates, but on your new country. The people around you may not have much, but they're all neatly dressed in their best suits and dresses. Their shirts are collarless, but they're clean. This isn't a slobby rabble of humanity like some think it is. It's a hopeful throng of people excited to leave their troubles far behind them and find better lives. The tender bobs gently alongside the huge ship, occasionally knocking into it with a soft jolt. A crew member appears, and one by one passengers are called forward in groups, separated into families, single male travellers, and women with children. When it's your turn to board, you're greeted by a large gangway at the after end of the ship, reaching all the way up the side of the towering vessel. It's a dizzying climb, and your children are made more nervous at the sight of the open water beneath them. None of you can swim. But one step at a time, you all make it safely to the top, and finally you step over the threshold, officially boarding the RMS Titanic. You're greeted by a simple, spacious, white-panelled room adorned with red and white linoleum floor tiles, and at the centre of the room is a large steel and wooden staircase that you're told will lead you down to your cabin in the stern section of the ship. Fortunately, your family gets to remain together. Usually, men would need to be berthed far away down towards the bow. As you make your way down, you notice fellow passengers and crew alike frequently appear utterly lost, but your cabin is mercifully easy to find. It's just a couple of decks down on E-deck. You enter your cabin to find a small, comfortable space with 4 berths and a wash basin in the centre of the room. That's much appreciated. On the beds are cosy red and white throw blankets bearing the White Star Line crest with plentiful linens underneath. But the most fascinating feature of the room, especially to the children, is the electric light bulb, a rare luxury you were never afforded back home. A radiator warms the room and the smell of fresh paint fills your nose, reminding you that you're travelling on the newest in shipbuilding. You joke to your family that it wants for a sitting room and it could do with a chandelier or two, but in reality it's an extremely comfortable space. You remember stories the old folks told of rickety sailing ships, packed dormitories, flickering oil lamps and screaming babies. This arrangement is a far cry from those days. Directly beneath your feet, you can feel the throbbing of the engines, a sensation that will gently rock you to sleep for the next 6 nights. But then, from high above, you hear a long, low drone. The ship's whistles are booming out from up there and it's time for departure. Quick, there's no time to lose. You can't miss out on your last glimpse of home. Hand in hand with your spouse and ushering the children along, the 4 of you rush the stairs, taking them 2 steps at a time, and burst out onto the open promenade with its spectacular views over the stern of the ship, where passengers of all creeds and nationalities are gathered. You begin to notice the sounds of unfamiliar languages. Not all the people watching the procedures up here are Irish, but those that are have a melancholy, fixed gaze on the green hills stretched out behind the ship. You find a good spot on the railing to lean over and take in the view. It's nothing short of breathtaking. Handkerchiefs wave in the air, looking like tiny pieces of confetti from so far away, and all around you are the heartfelt shouts of farewell and goodbye. Looking at your pocket watch, you see it's nearing 1:30 p.m, and Titanic is beginning to move. The shift at first is nearly imperceptible. Did you really just feel a bit of motion beneath your feet? Then, inch by inch, you notice the landscape start to pull away. Water churns at the ship's stern as the propellers get ready for their first trek across the ocean. Somewhere nearby, you hear a familiar tune being bellowed out by uilleann pipes. It's a lament, one of your old favourites from back home. You feel a tear in your eye as the rolling green hills of your homeland start to slowly slip into the distance. The moment feels almost dreamlike, a view that up until a few months ago you never thought you would see. The ship pulls farther and farther away until the silhouette of Queenstown looks like you could hold it in the palm of your hand. Before your ship, now in the afternoon sun, lies only a wide, open ocean and a future full of possibilities. Just at that moment, you're pulled from your thoughts by your daughter tugging on your shirt sleeve, asking to go below. The air is a bit chilly and a breeze has kicked up on deck, so you think maybe a bit of warmth is in order. You gather your family and head back inside to the staircase at the entrance, which leads down to your cabin. One thing is immediately clear. The ship is a labyrinth. After all, Titanic seems to be less of a ship and more of a floating city, and you've yet to even see a fraction of her. You all file out into the corridor and make your way through the crowd of excited, confused, and awestruck passengers. One thing you do notice is that there seems to be very few maps, signs, or directions posted nearby. Most people seem to be wandering aimlessly or repeating directions given to them by crew members. Some chatter in what you think might be German. It's quite an oversight for such a massive ship, you think, but for now there's nothing for it. The easiest thing to do, it seems, is to make your way back toward the staircase at the entrance to third class and see where it might lead. Instead of heading back out onto the promenade when you reach the top of the stairs, you enter a doorway just off the stairwell. Dressed in oak panelling, filled with rows of benches, tables and chairs, and even a piano at the far end. This is the third class general room. You remember it from the brochures, a place for general relaxing and mingling amongst your fellow passengers looking to pass the time. People seem to be gathering here for a brief rest after all the excitement of the morning. Children doze off in their mothers' laps, knitting needles clatter away, solo passengers tuck their noses into books, and others have already set to work making new friends. At the far end of the room, somebody is plonking out a tune, badly. It's a perfect spot for people watching, really, and the rest of the family just seems happy to get off their feet after all the hustle and bustle of the day so far. It's a comfortable space, but you notice there are no cushions or upholstery, only solid polished timber benches and chairs. They must think we all have lice, you think cynically to yourself. All around you is a medley of languages: English, Finnish, Swedish, Italian, French, and many other languages that are completely foreign to your ear. You realise that while all of you may speak different languages and come from different backgrounds, Everyone here is destined for the same shores, and many of them for the same reasons as you and your family. You're all here as future Americans, and already, based on the happy exchanges going on around you, the experience seems to be quickly bringing people together. The afternoon wears on as you while away the time watching the children play. You poked your head into the room next door briefly. It's of almost identical proportions to the general room, but it's panelled in darker timber and it looks something like a pub. No children play in there, there's just the murmur of quiet chatter as men drink porter and puff on cigarettes and pipes. Some even spit tobacco into spittoons on the tiled floors with reasonable accuracy, although there are a few brown patches on the tiles here and there. Back in the general room, just sitting in the warm sun as it beams through the portholes is soothing after your frantic travels so far. And were it not for the gentle rocking and thrum of the propellers a few stories below your feet, you could forget you're actually on a ship at all. But with all the excitement of the day, you've all worked up quite the appetite, so it seems like the next stop should be the dining saloon. Asking around, you find out the location is toward the middle of the ship. It's a fair trek, but it'll give you the opportunity to get your bearings a bit more. You gather the family and make your way down the staircase to F-deck. As you navigate your way forward toward the dining saloon, following the seemingly endless corridors, you notice a crew member enter a room with a chill emanating from its doorway. You peek inside before the door shuts behind him, only to see that the room is actually refrigerated and appears to be stocked almost from floor to ceiling entirely with potatoes. Back home in Ireland, it's been just 65 years since Black 47, the year that deaths from the Great Famine reached a high. Some of the older ones in the village even remembered it. The pain was still etched on their gaunt faces. But here you are, strolling a massive ship stocked with as many potatoes as you could imagine. Here on Titanic, you suppose, anything is possible. The corridor continues on, and it's fairly packed with confused third-class passengers all heading in the same general direction, hopefully towards the dining saloon. But rushing past you are crew, stewards in their white jackets, and then an officer in his smart uniform with the shiny buttons. This long alleyway seems to be the easiest way for third-class and crew members alike to get around. You will later find out that this long passageway is known affectionately to the crew as Scotland Road, named after the bustling street in Liverpool where many of the crew members hail from. The children seem enamoured with the crew as they pass by. Your son even asks if he can have a uniform just like theirs. Maybe one day, you tell him, if he works very hard, he can become a sailor too and get a uniform all his very own. The dining area takes some time to find. You're now beginning to see just how tricky it is to navigate this absolutely massive ship. You wish there were more signs posted, and you do manage to take a couple of wrong turns and even descend a staircase that seems to lead to a dead end. As corridors lead to more corridors, you become so disoriented you can barely tell if you're moving forward or backward. But thankfully, helpful stewards and your fellow passengers aid you in finding your way, and it isn't long before you finally find yourself descending a double staircase and stepping into the dining saloon. It's a wide open and welcoming space, with bright white walls, long tables covered in fresh tablecloths, and posters of White Star Line's other ships adorning the walls. One interesting detail about the room that catches your eye is the chairs. While at first glance nothing seems out of the ordinary about them, upon closer inspection you notice they're all bolted down to the deck to prevent them from sliding if the ship were to roll. While you appreciate how clever this little detail is, what you're really here to appreciate is the food. So you and your family hand over your assigned table tickets, find your seats, and prepare to dig in. The food is simple, hearty, and delicious. Roast beef, gravy, bread, soup, fruit and vegetables, and then plum pudding for dessert. It's practically a feast. The food back home kept you full, but you never could have imagined enjoying a spread like this, especially not in the middle of the ocean. Your children grin at you as they wolf down the plum pudding. There's a slight swell on now, and the ship rolls slowly. While everyone eats their fill, you casually strike up conversation with your table mates, another family who, you learn, are from Sweden. Despite the language barrier, you're able to pick up on some details. Like you, they are headed to America to pursue new opportunities. Their children, a boy and a girl around the same age as yours, quickly make friends with your son and daughter, showing them their small collection of miniature, wooden, hand-painted horses. Their mother explains that they're called Dalerhester, or Daler horses, and that she makes and sells them and plans to sell more in America to help earn some extra money for their family. One of the children offers your daughter a tiny, colourful horse, and she accepts it gladly. You finish up your meal and thank the family for their company, but the youngsters don't seem ready to part just yet. Their pleading eyes are impossible to resist, and it doesn't take much to get you to agree to keep the party going. You decide some fresh air is in order and you suggest heading back to the promenade, but the Swedish father tells you of a less crowded spot, the ship's forward welldeck, and it's much closer to boot. You let your new friends lead the way out of the dining saloon, up the staircase, down a corridor, up more flights of stairs, endless flights of stairs, and finally, a welcome burst of fresh air and sunshine kisses your face. You hadn't realised how stuffy it had become inside the ship, surrounded by paint fumes and chemicals, so the breeze is most welcome. All around you are huge cranes, cargo hatches and ladders. Some rather foreign pieces of machinery leave you wondering what they're even for. The children, meanwhile, waste no time at all, burning through the energy boost they got from their meal. And in the meantime, you, your spouse, and the Swedish couple pass the time conversing through the language barrier, piecing together bits of information through gestures until it feels a bit like a parlour game. The father offers you a dark pouch. Snus, he says, a kind of tobacco, but you decline with a smile. Meanwhile, your children are trying to teach a game from back home. One of the young Swedes stands in the middle of the group, blindfolded with his dad's necktie, while your son calls out, "Hurly-burly trumped the trace, the cows ran through the marketplace, Simon Alley hunt the buck, how many horns stand up?" It's up to the blindfolded lad to guess how many fingers your son is holding up. But it's not entirely clear that the boy understands the point of the game. Regardless, they're all having a grand time and cackling with glee. But now the wind is starting to blow cold and it's time to head below. You round them all up and head back inside, down the stairs to the largest third-class space on board, simply called the open space. There's not much here in terms of decor or aesthetics. It's quite literally a large, open space with white steel-riveted walls, bronze portholes and some tables, chairs and all the machinery from the cargo hatches from the welldeck above, extending down through the centre of the room. But despite its sparse appearance, the room is big, warm and welcoming. A large crowd of passengers is already happily mingling, drinking and dancing. You and your new friends find an open table and the children waste no time finding their own perfect spot nearby to continue playing. They seem quite content making up games with the little painted horses and teaching each other words in their native languages. You see one of the Swedish boys point to one of the horses, calling it Häst. He gestures to the room around you and says Fartig. You try to pronounce this one yourself, but it's nearly impossible with your thick Irish accent. Eventually you find a word you can all pronounce easily. Ven. Friend. More children join in on the fun, offering to share their own toys and making up games with the horses. A pair of rosy-cheeked Irish ladies strike up a conversation with your group and you find you have much in common from your life back home. You spend time reminiscing about Ireland, friends you may have in common, and you introduce them to your new Swedish friends, and before long you start to feel like you'll fit right in with your fellow future Americans. There is one small, embarrassing moment for you, though. You needed to find a privy, and a passenger helpfully pointed you down the stairs back to E-deck, where there is a block of them. But this isn't like the simple outhouse on the farm back home. This is a flushing water closet, and you've never used one before. You're trying to make sense of the white seat and the shining pipes and lever when a steward interrupts your thoughts. He explains the operation of the thing. You simply push the lever and hold it for a few seconds when you've finished your business. It sounds easy enough, but when it's your time to do it, you're surprised at the noise and the violence of the water as it surges around the bottom of the bowl. You climb the stairs back up to the general room and pass a gentleman with a large moustache and a trim, small beard. He's wearing an officer's uniform, unlike any of the others you've seen so far. He nods at you. He's the ship's jailer, somebody murmurs nearby, the master at arms, and his cabin is just downstairs. As the afternoon wears on, the chatter in the room is broken up by a sudden bellow from a young man's accordion. A familiar tune emanates from the squeeze box, and the whole room seems to perk up at once, clapping in time with the music. A young woman joins in with her fiddle, and soon after the trill of uilleann pipes can be heard as well. The tapping of feet turns into the swirling of skirts, children jump up to twirl and dance their own way wildly across the room, and your fellow Irishmen all seem excited to show off their very best jig. One song leads to another, and before long all manner of instruments have joined in to create a makeshift band playing a variety of folk tunes and reels. You've heard of the tuxedoed musicians in first and second class, entertaining the wealthy passengers with well-rehearsed waltzes and marches, but you can't help but feel nothing could beat this. Laughter, singing, clapping, stomping. The room is alive with revelry as the band plays on and everyone around you seems to forget their cares and dance the time away. By the time the sun has all but disappeared beneath the horizon, the children are beginning to yawn. All the excitement of the first day has finally caught up with them, and it seems that a good night's rest is in order. Your Swedish friends have decided to turn in for the night as well, so with the party still raging around you and the beer continuing to flow, you step away from the noise and the din and you go back down the stairs into the seemingly endless length of Scotland Road. It's a long walk back to your cabin, about 700 feet, you figure, but along the way you steal glances into the various crew spaces and rooms lining the corridor. You find the machinery fascinating. It all seems so large and complex, much like the rest of Titanic. Crew members flit to and fro, tending to one important duty or another, and you can't help but wonder what it might be like to experience a day walking in their shoes. You imagine what it would be like to spend your days at sea as one of Titanic's proud crew, but on second thought, you realize the seasickness might not be worth it. You make it back to your cabin, your daughter having got so sleepy on the walk back that she needed to be carried the rest of the way. It turns out your Swedish friends have a cabin just a short walk across from yours, so you plan to meet up for breakfast tomorrow morning. After saying goodnight and tucking the children into their bunks, you decide to step outside alone one last time to take in the view. You head up and out onto the promenade deck again, letting your eyes adjust to the night sky. You study the stars above, and it doesn't take you long before you spot the Plough, the constellation your grandfather showed you as a child. And it brings you back to those sweet memories of Ireland. A man nearby sees you gazing up. He smiles knowingly. "Der große Wagen," he says. You smile and nod back. The Great Wagon, you figure. This man must be far from his homeland too. You share the moment now together in thoughtful silence. Ireland is far away now, invisible on the dark horizon. An old poem runs through your mind. Aniamtions tacht in Haggarty, it begins. Now with the coming of spring, the days will be getting longer, and after the feast of Bridget, I will raise my sail. Since I got it into my head, I will not settle until I stand down in the middle of County Mayo. The moment is calm and peaceful, the kind of stillness you only find at sea or on the coast. The air is clearer, so is your mind. You'll miss your hometown, your friends, your old life. You aren't sure what awaits you when you dock in New York. Whatever fate holds in store for you, you have no choice but to embrace it. For now, though, you have the rest of the journey to look forward to on board the grandest steamer in the world. You yawn, feeling the exhaustion seeping into your bones. It's been a very long day. Titanic presses onward into the night, and with a final look around, you step back inside and return to your cabin to join the rest of your family for a good night's sleep. Tomorrow is another day.